Hi, folks. This is Dr. Don, and we're beginning Module 6. Now, we've talked, or I've posted about using AI in this course earlier, and the school rules still apply in the sense that you're not supposed to use AI to write written answers for you, okay? That's primarily aimed at essay type questions or essays themselves, what we call long form answers, and notably for us, the discussion post, particularly your initial post. That needs to be your own words, your own thinking. Don't use AI to write that. Work your brain a bit. When it comes to the remix, okay, and even the rehearses now, I don't think it would be helpful for those very much, but for the remix, I'm going to let you, at your option, try to use an AI tool, specifically the free version of ChatGPT. And I only want folks to use that because everyone should have access to the free version and it would put you on an equal playing field. Okay. And I want to show you how that could work on one of the remix assignments. I do want you to cite in your remix report that you used AI, and it's going to give you some help, but also give you some challenges along the way. So I think it's useful for you to begin to learn how to use these tools to do real work. So let me show you. Hang on for a second. Here is the way that I set up my single window when I'm working on a remix. And here I've got the Lab 6 hypothesis test workspace in Posit Cloud. I've got the paired samples worksheet. We give you two worksheets that you should use for your remix, one for a paired samples problem, and the other is, I'm blanking, I think it's just a ANOVA problem. And those come from the two rehearses, okay? And the way I keep this thing organized, I've got over here the home page for the lab manual so I can jump back and forth. I keep rehearse one open so I can, if I need to copy stuff out of there, I can. There's rehearse two. This is the remix, which gives you the instructions. And of course, here is Posit Cloud. Now I snuck in there, and this is the Chat GPT, and I wanted to show you this. Again, this is the free version, so everyone should have access to this. I was surprised today how long it let me go on. It must not be a busy time. As you may know, the number of questions and the complexity of the questions you can ask and get help on varies on the demand on the system. If you're there when everybody else under the sun is using it, you may get fewer questions and you'll get a message like this. I got at the bottom. So you run out of your limit, yada, 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 and come back after 7:16 p.m. Okay. But I was surprised about how much I got done before I hit that. And worst case, it would just behoove you again to start earlier in the week. So if you do run out of tokens, as they call them, you can come back later after the restart time and finish what you need. Just be aware of that. Okay, what I did, I just opened up a session and I asked it, please help me answer this question. And what I did, and it's the same thing you can do, I just copied research question one, and you can see I've got the whole thing there. I went here to the remix and I copied that information right there in and pasted it in. And then I asked it, what type of hypothesis test do I need? That's the first question that you've got to know. And it gave me an answer. It says you need a paired samples test, also called a dependent samples or a repeated measures test. We call it paired samples here. And it gave me some information and it stated the null, and the alternative. Now I'm going to assume that you do the same thing, but you need to check to make sure that it states the null and alternative correctly to match the question. I'm not going to tell you if this is correct. You need to go back here to the remix, read that, and see if what it tells you there makes sense. And then I told it, okay, you know, definitely don't want to use Python for this. We want to use R, but I need to use R in the Downy process with the infer package. If you don't tell it that, it will not use the Downy process, which is required for this assignment, and it will probably not use the infer package either. So be sure to tell it you want the Downy process and the infer package. And it gave me a step-by-step, which again, you need to validate that. But it looks like it did a pretty good job. And it gives you the code that you can then copy and paste into your worksheet. Now, what I did, I created an empty worksheet because what I noticed right off was that it wasn't following the exact same steps that our worksheet requires you to do. And so you're going to have to deal with that. You know, if you submit it in this order, you will have all the content, but it won't be in the right places, and I'll deduct some points, okay? Because you haven't satisfied your boss. The chat is not your boss. I'm your boss on this, so you've got to do this, and it would just take asking it, hey, I really need this and I need that, and it'll revise and give you the code that you then just copy and paste right in to the worksheet. So it worked pretty well, and it will give you a lot of information. But again, the whole idea of working with AI is you've got to know enough to ask the right questions, okay? And you've got to trust it like you would trust a assistant, a young assistant who is very energetic and will do a lot of work, and sometimes they mess it up. And you were responsible for their work. So you've got to read into that and say, that doesn't make sense. Let's redo this. For example, one of the things when we created the data set, we didn't want you to have to go through and calculate these differences. And so we gave you a non-conventional data set. And it has, you know, 3 variables, the score, the test, and the difference. And the difference only goes down for half because the difference is just the post-test minus the pre-test. And of course, chat picked up on that and it said, it's tidy, slightly unconventional, which it is because we were trying to work with students. But it did go through and it did use the Downy process, not in the right sequence to match what we did. It didn't create the data visualization yet. You would have to ask it, I need a box plot, I need a histogram, whatever type of graph you need to compare these 2 variables to put in there. It will give you that, but you've got to ask for it. It didn't volunteer it because it just didn't think ahead, okay? But I think it's a worthwhile exercise for you to begin to learn how to use AI for these things. It's the world of the future. It's not going to be long before ChatGPT or some other AI tools can be built right into Posit, built right into RStudio. It's already built in the VS Code if you use that IDE, which we don't. It's more for people who are professional coders. A lot of other people use it too, but it's not as beginner friendly, I think, as Posit and RStudio are. So, but anyway, I think this will be a good thing, and you can see it'd be a good learning experience, and it will go through. I went through and used it, and again, it's not quite in the right sequence, but it's doing everything. Here's the null distribution, the observed statistic. It didn't print it out right there, and you can ask it to do that. It calculated the p-value and the null distribution, which we have to do, and see, there's the graph, which looks pretty good. And here's where it gave me the p-value, not in the right place for our worksheet, but it gave you that. So I hope this is encouraging. This is a longer video than I wanted, and I'm going to shut up before it gets to 10 minutes. Give it a try. If you need some help, reach out and grab me. If you don't want it, use it, you don't have to use it. If you do want to try it, okay. The other thing I did mention here, when you get through, you're going to cite it and say, I use ChatGPT free, and I'm going to copy this shareable link, create the link, and put that in your report. Again, I think it'd be worth learning how to do this. And again, I won't count off if you use it in this thing because I want you to learn how to use it, but you've got to be able to get it into the worksheet to match, and that'll take a little bit of extra effort, but I think it's worth it. So I hope you enjoy this exercise and reach out and grab me. Like doing Zooms.